I'm getting out of this city and I'm going down the line. I hear an overdriven guitar with the ancient hums, and the beating of the sleepers is the sound of the drums. I hear the whistle blowing, chills run down my spine. I'm getting out of this city and I'm going down the line.
G'day, I'm Scott McGregor. Welcome to my place and welcome to my adventures down the line. Ever since I was a little boy, I've been fascinated by trains and everything associated with them. As you can see, the hobby's expanded a bit over the years. And once you start collecting, stuff seems to roll in from everywhere. Ah, here he is.
This is the last of the boxes from the yard, Scott.
Oh, great, mate. Well done. Excellent.
Hope you find something interesting.
I'm bound to.
See you, Scott.
You know, what I love about the railways is there's the trains, there's the stations, and then there's all this other stuff. It's endless, and that's what makes it a collector's paradise. And what's really interesting is when you come across something like this. A real treasure chest. Wow. This is a pretty amazing collection. It looks like it's belonged to somebody who worked for the railways for quite some time. And a Gladstone bag full of stuff. It's like there's a guy's life in here and he's just up and disappeared. There are clues here to where the railwayman lived and worked. There's photos and a dog tag from the massive workshops at Everleigh. There's plates and a sticker from Goulburn. There's badges from Canberra and Cooma. Silverware from Junee. All this stuff is like a map of sorts, because everything here relates to a place somewhere along the line in southern New South Wales. It's a great line, one of the first to be built in Australia, and I reckon we could trace this railwayman's history by following all the bits and pieces. So, I reckon it's time to head down the line, because we've got a mystery to solve and a bag to return. These are the Everleigh workshops in Sydney, once the heart and soul of train building in New South Wales. Our lost railwayman started his working life here. They're now home to one of our most famous steam engines, 3801. And she's getting all fired up to take us south. Central Station, Platform 1. 3801 greets her audience and takes a bow. Looks like thirsty work, boys.
Certainly is.
G'day, I'm here for my lift, mate.
Yeah, come aboard.
Oh, excellent. Good on you.
Coming for a ride. Meet my fireman for the day, Frank.
G'day,
Scott.
Frank. Yeah. So this would be my seat here, wouldn't it, mate?
That will be your seat. You can sit down and set yourself up comfortably.
Very cosy.
Right, mate.
How long have you been working on 3801?
Well, since I was a fireman, probably back in 1964, 65.
That's the first time you struck a 38 class then, was it?
Yeah, in hands-on. Not long after I first joined the railway.
Is it special to be driving 3801?
Yeah, well, I reckon the 38 class is the Rolls-Royce of the New South Wales steam fleet, and they've been a good engine and pretty trouble-free.
Well, mate, we've got to leave in a couple of minutes, haven't we?
Yeah, we're away in a couple of minutes.
Well, don't let me hold you up, whatever you do.
No, we'll have to get...
And if you need to, give me a job. I'm handy. I can throw a shovel around, Frank, if you need a break.
Well, you don't throw it in.
Okay. Good on you. I'll settle back here.
Okie dokie, Scott.
a seat usually reserved for the loco inspector.
For many, this locomotive represents the glory days of New South Wales railways, when workshops employed thousands and lines were taken over the steep mountains, reaching out into the interior, giving the new colony confidence, setting it on track for the future.
Well, Graham, thanks for the ride, mate.
It was a wonderful ride there, Scott. Thank you.
Gee, I'll tell you what, you didn't muck around.
No,
There were a couple of moments there I thought the wheels were going to fall off.
we moved along. We were doing about 70 mile an hour.
70 miles an hour.
Yeah, we got on just about on time.
Gee, it's deceptive, isn't it?
Yeah, my word.
Back in 1863, Goulburn was proclaimed the first inland city in Australia. It had quickly become a significant pit stop on the Great South Road, which ran between Sydney and Melbourne. A fact that wasn't lost on some of the local entrepreneurs of the day. This is Mandelson's Hotel, and 150 years ago, this was the place to stay and conduct your business.
In this very room, in 1846, a guy called William Bradley and a number of his associates sat down and formed the Sydney Railway Company with the express intention of creating Australia's first railway. You can just imagine the conversations they would have had, Bradley and his cohorts discussing the opportunities that bringing a railway to New South Wales might create. Little did they know what they were about to unleash. You see, Bradley was inspired because he was there in England in 1830 and watched as Stephenson's rocket roared down the line between Liverpool and Manchester, hauling the world's first mainline passenger train. And he knew he was onto a good thing.
Bradley's vision became a reality in 1869, when the line finally reached Goulburn. And to mark the grand occasion, Lady Belmore, the wife of the Governor of New South Wales, gracefully descended the stairs here at Mandelson's, to be escorted by local dignitaries across to the park opposite the railway station. And here she planted an oak tree.
But back to our man Bradley. You see, he had a number of operations right round town, and there's one of them I think our railwayman might have had something to do with.
This is the old Goulburn Brewery, opened back in the 1830s to make a quid out of quenching the thirst of the growing city.
So, Michael, when did you come here?
Oh, must be 25
Today,
years
it's
ago.
run by a priest, Michael O'Halloran, who's been renovating it for nearly 30 years. He's a font of all knowledge around here, and maybe he can shed some light on our lost railwayman.
Oh, Michael, thank you very much.
A drop of the doings.
Oh, lovely. Well done. Now, here's some bits and pieces from my fellow, but there are a couple of things that relate specifically to Goulburn.
The loco depot plate here.
But what about this one? This is intriguing me. What's the connection with the railways with this?
Extra brown stout. Well, first of all, that's an original label from here. But the people who started the brewery started the railways. And this was the favourite drop of the railway workers from the time they first started. The first steam railway in Australia was built between Sydney and Parramatta, as you know, but it was a Goulburn venture. Sydney wasn't much interested in the railway at all. It was meant to bring the wool and other produce from the interior here and down to the wharves, which happened to be in Sydney, and off overseas. That's what the railway was all about.
Right. And Goulburn was a very early connection in that.
And a very enterprising place, yes.
Well, Michael, that's fascinating.
Well, there's another railway connection yet. This bar comes from the Goulburn railway station.
Really?
It was the liquor bar on the railway station.
How'd it come here?
Rescued from demolition and given to us by a local publican.
Oh, that's fantastic. Oh, well, here's cheers, Michael. Well.
And to all those who bent the elbow on it in the past.
Good on you.
time to sit back and think about where we're headed. So, our railwayman obviously had an affinity with Goulburn, but I doubt he was there for very long. This collection reflects a smaller depot, or perhaps a minor station, where he probably had to do a bit of everything.
This is interesting, rare as well. It's a parliamentary gold pass, given to politicians so they could travel anywhere in Australia for free. And the only way for politicians to get to Canberra in the early days was by train.
Canberra, Australia's capital city, and the architectural vision of a Canadian by the name of Walter Burley Griffin. His original plan was for a railway station at the footsteps of what is now the old Parliament House.
Apparently they reconsidered the idea when they realised having steam trains right next to their nice white Parliament House mightn't be the best idea. But I reckon it would have been ideal, a kind of symmetry. Steam trains on the outside, politicians on the inside, lots of hot air.
Lovely old station, this. Queanbeyan is just 10 miles out of Canberra. The line came through here on its way to Cooma back in 1887, some 30 years before the national capital was even thought of. These days, though, the line beyond here doesn't see much traffic, so getting to Cooma by rail is going to take some ingenuity on my part.
Hey, John.
Hey, Scott, how you going, mate?
Good, mate.
Ready
Is this
for
my
you?
lift to McGregor?
Come on board, mate.
Good
Your
on
trip to
you.
McGregor, righto.
Well, ingenuity, a few friends in the right places, and a good set of wheels. This branch line is one of my favourites. People have always told me stories about the infamous Kosciuszko Express and the old Cooma mail trains. John Goulburn was the man who drove the last Cooma mail train before the line closed in 1989. Thankfully, this part of the line to McGregor is still in good enough shape to run the odd loco when required.
You'd be pretty familiar with this part of the line, wouldn't you?
Oh, yes, I'd say so. I've been doing it for 30-odd years, so as somebody said once, I must know most of these sleepers by name, I suppose, just about. Rather.
Oh, there's Harry and Bill.
Harry
Oh,
Bill,
good.
that's right. I'm required to give a cock-a-doodle-doo as we go past here because one of our members is buried up in the cemetery here, and it's our tradition to
Say good day to him.
Good day to him as we come past. Yes.
That's nice, mate. That's nice.
It's looking pretty hot and dry out here today. But in winter, during the 60s and 70s, this was a lifeline between Sydney and the snowy mountains, carrying a lively mix of skiers and politicians. It was known as the party train, and they weren't talking about political parties.
That was quite famous in its time.
Quite notorious, I think. I don't think there was much rest that it had on that train.
Really?
The passengers leave Sydney on a Friday night, and I don't think they had much rest on their way to Cooma. By the look at the passengers when they got out the train at Cooma,
They looked a bit shaken, did they, when you pulled them into Cooma?
To say the least, yeah.
Get off the line, you silly bloody sheep! Get off the line! Hey! Whoa, 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 whoa! Get off the line!
Nice try,
I did what I could, Johnny.
Nice try.
We're dealing with sheep and goats.
Hey,
whoa!
Oh, they're gone everywhere.
Back into your paddock where you came from, you mugs. Go on.
Somebody's got sheep now they didn't know they had.
Yes. So here we are at McGregor. What a fine-looking station.
Finally,
This is
mate.
great. So guys, That's it from me. Gee, I appreciate the trip.
Oh,
I
that's
really
all right.
do. Thanks heaps, John.
No
Thanks,
worries,
John.
no worries.
Good on you.
So where are you off to now?
Well, mate, straight on down the line. Yeah.
Well, don't get lost. It's a long way.
I'll
And
just
mind the
follow
snakes too, I'd reckon.
Okay, John. Thanks for the advice.
Righto, see ya. Crikey.
Don't get lost, he says. Very funny. As much as I wish this line was open, sometimes a walk down the tracks gives you a bit more time to have a look around. This is the Monero Plain. Never actually had many trees. A bit too high and dry, which didn't help those early pioneers when they tried to grow wheat. It's good sheep and cattle country though.
Gotta love a good tunnel. Much prefer going through a mountain than up and over it.
The Goulburn to Cooma branch line really was a triumph. It opened in 1889 after 6 years of back-breaking manual labour. The cost? A staggering £1.5 million. Sounds a fair amount of cash now, but back then it was a fortune. Stores, butcher shops, offices, saddlers, wheelwrights and blacksmith shops, hospitals, a sawmill and a brickworks littered the line as the project grew. Not much left now, though.
Wow. Oh, boy. I could have used this a few miles back. Hey, mate. Is this yours?
Sure is.
What a beauty. Ah, nice place you got here, mate.
Too right.
Ah.
Where have you come from?
Oh, well, McGregor.
It's all downhill from there. You look a bit tired.
All downhill, you reckon? Oh, I tell you.
Would you like to come and have a cup of tea?
Oh, mate, I'd love that.
Come in then.
Cheers. Mate, I am very...
Meet John and Jean, right at home in their very own piece of railway history.
Good.
Ah, nice to meet you.
Good to meet you.
Oh, boy. So tell me, how old's the place?
This is the Breadbow Station Master's house. It was built in 1889.
Gee, and what was it like when you found it?
Oh, it was pretty wrecked.
Was it?
Yes, it was wrecked.
So you had to do a bit of work to it?
We've done a lot of work, yes.
Really? And why a station master's cottage in the middle of nowhere at Breadbow?
The view, the railway line,
It's lovely.
people would pay millions of dollars to live right here beside a railway line, and we do.
You're pretty happy about that, aren't
Too
you,
right,
mate?
yep.
Well, I reckon it enhances the view beautifully, a few railway lines.
And there's one extra feature of the house that John and Jean hadn't bargained for when they bought the place.
And tell me, does the old station master wander around occasionally?
Yes, definite.
Yes, definitely. Torch comes on in the middle of the night, the blinds go up, the doors close.
We call him Stewie.
Stewie, that's his
Stewie.
name. That was his nickname when he was station master here, and he's still around.
Ah, John, you've still got the original station gates.
Yes,
These are rare, mate.
I'll say. Tell you a good story about these two.
Yeah?
The man from Snowy River, Charlie McKechnie, used to ride his horse from the railway down to the pub. They'd never use a gate, always jump it on their horses. And this is the gate they jump.
So whatever happened to him?
He was riding home down the other end of Breadbow one evening, and his horse slipped on the frost on the bridge, and he came off, and they thought he was okay. They brought him up to the hotel, and he must have had some internal injuries, and he died 2 days later down in the hotel.
So this is Banjo Patterson country, mate.
Too right.
I reckon that hotel's got a few stories.
Yes, yes, and sells a good drop of beer too.
Does it?
Yes.
You're recommending it, obviously.
Too right.
Better head down there, I reckon.
I think so.
From down by Kosciuszko, where the pine-clad ridges raise their torn and rugged battlements on high, where the air is clear as crystal and the white stars fairly blaze, at midnight in the cold and frosty sky. And where around the overflow the reed beds sweep and sway, to the breezes and the rolling plains are wide. The man from Snowy River is a household word today, and the stockmen tell the story of his ride. Now, there's plenty of debate about whether McKechnie was or wasn't the man from Snowy River. But one thing's for sure, Banjo Patterson did stay at this pub. Apparently he liked the room just there, the right distance between the bar and the toilet, they reckon. And I think he would have appreciated the view from here of the stockmen working cattle up at the station as well.
He wrote The Man from Snowy River way back in 1890, using this very country as inspiration. This bridge needs a bit of work. Nobody apart from me and the odd sheep are going to cross this one in a hurry.
Straight in. Hey guys, I love the wheels.
Good. I tell you, I've walked all the way from McGregor and that rail motor's looking very attractive. Yeah? Any chance of a lift?
Well, you could have a lift if you did some work.
I see a crowbar and a hole equals a one-way ticket to Cooma. Easy. This keen bunch are from the Cooma-Monero Railway. They run rail motors out of Cooma every weekend and keep this last section of the line open. For now, Jacola is the end of the line. But from little things, great things grow.
A small settlement grew around the railway, included a school, a post office and a church. The railway station created a focus for the development of a village. It's just what every siding needs, a potted history.
These little rail motors are a real treat. Talk about reliable. CPH number 6 was built at the Everleigh Workshops back in Sydney, and she's just about to celebrate her 80th birthday.
What's she like to drive?
I haven't derailed it yet.
You haven't derailed it yet? Oh, I'm very glad of that. So, do you remember the old express?
Oh yes, I've been on it many times.
Yeah?
Yes, that gave me my love of trains.
Really?
The old
Why?
steam trains. I just love steam.
Yeah?
Yeah. So any trains are better if we can't have steam, and I love the rail motors too.
And let's face it, what's not to love?
Righto, tickets please. If you haven't got tickets, $10. What are all these things? Freebie.
It's not just the tourists who get a kick out of this. Since these old motors got back on the rails, they've once again become an important part of the local community.
Wave.
Easy to maintain, easy on the eye. I think they're little wonders humming across the Monero Plain, stopping traffic every Saturday, and of course on Cooma Race Day.
I think livestock's a bit of an occupational hazard on this line, Wendy.
It is today. I don't think I'll take a horse on though.
With the Snowy Mountain scheme in full swing and a huge amount of traffic coming down into these yards here, I know our railwayman would have worked on trains around these parts. And I guess he would have camped in these barracks here. But I also know he worked on trains on the other southern lines. Gundagai, Junee, my ultimate destination. And to get me there, I've organised a ride with a couple of mates of mine. And knowing them, they're going to be here in the morning, bright and early. Oh.
He did say early, didn't he?
Yeah, you reckon when the chooks get up?
We were well up this morning.
Oh, hey, you're here already?
Well, I'll be blowed. You finally got out of bed.
You're early.
I thought you wanted an early start, mate.
Well, early, yeah, but that was before I had to rebuild the Cooma line for everybody yesterday.
Oh, well, at least you got here, Scotty. Good to see you, mate.
Great to see you,
Welcome
mate.
back.
And this is Dave, isn't it?
That's Dave, the son.
It's good to see you, mate.
Yeah.
Now, who's this?
That's Doc.
This is Doc.
Yeah.
Hey, you're a healthy-looking creature.
Everything set for you? We'll make a move.
Let's go.
Meet Peter Cochrane and his son David.
Did many stay?
Peter's been
Oh,
the
yes,
mayor,
you go through
the local MP, and his family have been in the district for over 160 years. So he's almost a local. Without a rail link over the mountains, I reckon the next best thing is a saddle. And by the look of this lot, you certainly wouldn't want to try it by car.
Taking you through a bit of a shortcut.
This is extraordinary, mate. What's the story?
Oh, it's probably the greatest collection of wrecked cars anywhere in Australia, but I think it was a driving school that went wrong during the snowy days, I think.
Right. Is your first car here, mate?
I don't know, but I think Dave's might be. Dave, your first car. Yeah,
Is that
probably
right?
is.
Yeah.
Look at this old bus, the Chalet, Kiandra Express.
Well,
That's a bit of history.
Kiandra was the first ski field in Australia, and I'd say at a rough guess that bus might have been there at the opening. That might have used it for the officials to take them up to the opening ceremony.
As we ride up into the high country, Peter takes me on a detour to visit some old family friends.
This is the Old Town Cemetery, the original cemetery of Adaminaby.
You got some ancestors here, mate?
Yeah, we've got Lachlan Cochrane there alongside Charlie McKechnie, just over there.
Oh, Charlie McKechnie's buried here.
Charlie McKechnie's buried here along with Mary McKechnie and a lot of the older Cochranes.
Really?
Buried just over there.
The cemetery, along with the whole town of Adaminaby, had to be moved to higher ground to make way for the Snowy Mountain Hydro Scheme. It was a huge engineering project, one of Australia's largest, designed to capture the crystal clear waters of the Snowy Mountains in a large series of dams.
Well, the Snowy Scheme was designed to generate electricity and irrigate arid land, and it did both, but it was at great expense to the local people.
Well, great expense in what way?
Well, a lot of the old people moved out of their homesteads and their lives were disrupted, but they were prepared to sacrifice that for the better of the country, and that's the way it was in those days.
Up here you get a real feel for those far-off days when the world was a different place. No cars, no phones, just the horses, the mountains, and a heartwarming campfire to come home to. My next train journey awaits me tomorrow morning. But I can tell you, certain parts of my anatomy are quite thankful that today's ride has come to an end.
We'll pull the saddles off and give them a bit of a feed.
Hey.
And if you just want to pull your saddle off there, if you could.
Oh.
I'll get the cropper
undone. I tell you what, when you haven't been on a horse for a while, you really know it in the tender bum department.
Oh, you're going soft riding on those bloody trains.
Mate, the trains keep me sane. Here's to the simple pleasures, mate.
Beyond the city, the billy can still lives on. A taste of the simple traditions of the Australian bush. All alive and well. Now Dave's having a bit of a sleep in and we're underway because I've got a train to catch. And this one's a beauty.
Looks like they get your next ride ready to go, mate.
Yeah. Well, Pete, time to hand your horse back to you. Change mode of transport.
Okay, mate, this is the end of the line, so to speak.
It is a bit.
Been great to have you, Scotty.
Well, all the best, okay?
Thoroughly enjoyed your company. Have
Thanks
a
for
safe
everything.
trip.
See you later, Doc.
Doc will be here when you get back.
Excellent, buddy. See ya.
Bye.
I'm about to ride on Australia's highest railway, the Ski Tube, or Alpine Railway as it's known. Now, she's pretty quiet here today, but when the ski season's in full swing, over 4,500 people an hour use this fascinating little system. G'day, mate. We're about to enter the longest tunnel through solid rock in the southern hemisphere. And as we head underneath the Ram's Head Range, we're going to be about half a kilometre below the surface. You've got to remember, this train and this amazing piece of engineering was built for fun. Wow. This is a great feeling to be sitting right on the top of Australia. This right here is Mount Blue Cow, and just there is Australia's highest mountain, Kosciuszko. This beautiful valley here is the western side of the ranges. Our next destination, home to the Murrumbidgee. And how do we get there?
Now, fast is good, but when you're drifting down the mighty Murrumbidgee River, slow feels like just the pace. The amount of water travelling down here can be managed to a degree by the Snowy Mountains hydro scheme. This is Denzel Ballard, and he's giving me a lift into Gundagai.
So, mate, what's the chances of catching something?
Well, just there.
Yeah.
I walked down there one night, put me right in. 5 minutes I had a 5-pound yellow belly.
Wow.
You very seldom do that.
Is that the once-in-a-lifetime fisherman's story, mate?
Yeah. Yeah, that's right.
You spend your whole life trying to repeat it?
Yeah.
Ah, the rail bridge. Time to get back on track.
Here we are, Denzel. Thanks heaps. You want to push off?
Yeah, thanks.
See you later.
Righto.
This is the Gundagai Railway Viaduct, which was opened in 1903. It's 900 yards long, and I'm pretty sure it's still one of the longest rail bridges in the country.
Now, with the river at its current height, this bridge might seem a little over-engineered. But the Murrumbidgee is a deceptive river, and back in 1852 it rose an amazing 28 feet. That's about the same height as this bridge. And the old town of Gundagai that used to be here was completely swept away.
Sensibly, the new town of Gundagai was moved to higher ground, and a good thing too, because this river has had a few attempts to reach these foundations as well. Now, a bloke called Pat Sullivan has been running a local newspaper here for as long as I can remember. Might be time to pay him a visit.
A good place to find out what's going on around town is the local newspaper. You see, my old man was a newspaper man, and there wasn't much he couldn't tell you about what was going on in my old hometown of Mudgee. Good stuff. Hey, you've still got the old press in there.
Yeah, old Wharfdale. Used to be one in every country town once.
Oh, Pat, this brings back memories, mate. What's the story with all these horses here?
The story of all those horses here is that there's a bloke who's been working here since 1945 as a mad punter.
Yeah.
And horses that he's won on, he sticks up.
Wow, he's had a few winners.
Oh, he's had a lot of losers too in that time. I think more losers than winners.
Well, he must have churned through some bucks.
Yeah.
Now, tell me, mate, something I've always wanted to know. Gundagai has this fame. Like, if you were to name, you know, an Australian town, everyone would sort of immediately recognise the name Gundagai. What is it about Gundagai?
It's got all that colourful history and colourful characters that have been associated with it. You know, it was the town that was destroyed in 1852. The bushranging days, you know, Dunn, Gilbert, Ben Hall.
Captain Moonlight used to get around here too, didn't he? Is there a story behind that?
He's the bushranger who came back. When Moonlight was sentenced to death, he expressed a wish that he be buried next to his mates at Gundagai. Of course, the authorities in those days didn't take kindly to exceeding the wishes from bushrangers, so they just buried him in Rookwood Cemetery in an unmarked grave. And a couple of years ago, Christine Ferguson and Sam Asmus, having read of Moonlight's last wish, decided to see if they could fulfil it. And they did. They got permission to dig him up. He was exhumed at Rookwood, brought back to Gundagai and given the full funeral. You know, the old-fashioned horses with the long black plumes, undertakers in top hats, and hundreds of people there. So his first funeral might have been somewhat ignominious and ignored by everybody, but his second funeral at Gundagai drew a big crowd, you know, big as your average football match.
Really?
Now, the old Gundagai station sits quietly on the eastern side of town.
Part of the challenge of getting around on these old branch lines is having the right vehicle for the terrain. Well, I've got something special tucked away in the old goods shed here at Gundagai. Let's have a look. There she is, just where I left her. Always pays to plan ahead.
This is a custom-made rail bike.
I've been looking forward to this day for quite some time.
And it's about to touch down on Australian tracks for the first time.
I wonder what my old railway fella would have made of these wheels here. Well, there's one place left on my mystery tour, and that's Junee. With a chariot like this at my disposal, well, we might just have to take a few detours along the way. Interestingly, it wasn't just Captain Moonlight who roamed around these parts. In 1864, Ben Hall and his gang of bushrangers bailed up the Gundagai mail coach. They ambushed the police escort and killed Sergeant Edmund Parry. Nowadays, just got to look out for the odd sheep. And emu. Well, g'day, old man. What are you doing here? Icon of the Australian bush. Great to see. Extreme caution is required when approaching a crossing. Look both directions, get out the red flag, blow the whistle, pedal like buggery. After a long, hard journey, Junee at last. We're coming up to the roundhouse. I love this place. It's the largest operating roundhouse in the Southern Hemisphere. And as you come in between the two buildings here, it's like entering the gates of Rome. Now, to find myself a park.
Now, the roundhouse was the heart and soul of any railway system. A constant hive of activity as engines came and went 24 hours a day. The pace may have eased a little these days, but it's still being used as a maintenance depot for some of the local locomotive fleet.
Come on, Scott, they haven't got all day. Okay, Gary.
Diesels think they own the place. G'day, fellas.
Hey, is that you just coming on that contraption?
I tell you, my legs. She's been a hard job. How are you?
Good.
Oh, the old roundhouse. What a beauty, eh? I bet you blokes saw it in its heyday. What was she like, eh? On a busy day?
Oh, it was pretty hectic and had, you know, the men for stabling, preparations, the men on fires and boilers, and worked the full 7 days, 24 hours a day.
What was your job, Keith?
Oh, cleaning and start cleaning, you know, hopefully to get a driver one day. And
So you'd be down in these pits?
down in the pits.
Was it Loco would come in straight to you?
Yep.
They'd be yelling at you to get the thing out?
Get her out,
Prep her up.
clean her.
Prep her up, oil it up.
What was your favourite Loco, Keith?
3801.
Really? What was it about 3801?
Oh, you felt like $1 million, like whether you were driving or firing it, just, it had my imagination, it lived and it breathed. Got in here to talk to you.
No long rambling Main Street shopping strip in Junee. It's the railway station and its precinct that dominates the centre of town. This is one of the best preserved old Australian country towns I know. And if I'd been working on the railways, this would have been the place for me.
I tell you, got to feel at home in a town that's got a pub called the Locomotive. The grand railway refreshment room. This was a high-class venue for travellers who were passing through town. They could even stay the night here in the railway's very own hotel.
I can just imagine dining here and enjoying a silver service 3-course meal with my fellow travellers. Now, appearances can be deceptive. Tonight, this old flour mill plays host to one of the biggest nights on Junee's social calendar, the Licorice Bowling World Championship.
Yo, anybody home?
Yeah, come in.
Neil, I've heard about your fine establishment, mate. Dying to see it.
How are you?
Good, mate, good. How are you going?
Oh, flat out.
Fair dinkum?
Yeah, got to make flour, got to make licorice for a licorice party tonight.
Licorice party?
Can you help me?
Yeah, heck, gladly.
For you, T.
Yeah, what do you got going? So, mate, how do we start? What do you want me to do?
Put the wheat in the mill.
Righto, so, this stuff?
Yeah, that's it.
Straight in the top?
Yep, that's it.
Okay. Whole bag in, mate?
Yeah, all off.
So here comes the flour.
Here it is, mate. Here it is.
Huh.
Look at this.
Just like that. Go easy.
Yeah, makes you look like the real thing. This way, buddy.
I see what it is around here. You get everyone to lift the loads.
Oh,
Hey,
yeah.
mate, this is great.
Oh, fantastic.
Wow.
The old mill.
You got the old band tuning up and everything?
Yep.
You're shaping up to be some party.
Party? This is the World Championships of vertical licorice bowling. Come on, let's get into it.
Mate, I'm amazed. What have we got here?
This is the mix.
Right, does this
You
go
right?
in there?
Slowly, really slowly.
Really slowly.
I'll
Why?
hold the front so it doesn't jam up and get lumpy.
Oh, yeah, you don't want lumpy licorice, do you, mate?
Yeah. Scotty, you'll love this. This is our steam cooker.
Where's the pistons, mate?
Doesn't have any.
Oh.
Here, hold this.
Right.
Okay, cover up, mate. To the belt. Scotty, you're
What
good.
happens next, mate?
We bring it here, put it through the dip.
So the whole system's away.
Yeah, we're away. This is it. We've got to make these hot licorice balls, a couple of these. And this is what your bowls
It's the
tonight.
feel of the weight.
Don't get too much practice in. But you're a natural.
Got to get it up a bit, have we?
Yeah, that's it.
Have I ever told you that licorice really is my favourite confectionery?
No, you haven't.
No, fair dinkum, mate. It's
Is
my
it?
favourite.
Yeah?
I love the stuff.
All right, if you're a real connoisseur, mate,
Yeah.
let me give you something to try. This is licorice root powder. 4,000 years ago, the Chinese described this as the elixir of life.
Oh, yum. So that's the magic ingredient.
Healthy for everything. It's good for your lungs, pancreas, intestines, very cleansing.
This is not snake oil salesman stuff, is it, mate?
Come on, Scotty,
Hey?
Scotty, it's coming.
I mean, it tastes good and that's that, isn't it?
No, it's even fights tooth decay. Hey, one more thing. It's an aphrodisiac.
I'm sold.
Have a stick of warm licorice. It's organic, you know. Organic. And you can't get fresher than this. 12 degrees organic.
Ladies and gentlemen, okay, we've been waiting for this. The first contestant representing New South Wales Rail, Darby Asmus. Now, contestant number 2, due to a late scratching, but we have representing Steam Australia, Scott McGregor. Please make way for contestant number 3, current world champion, Tommy Smith. Now, the final contestant is representing Green Grove Organics,
Please put your hands together for Renee Fox.
Now, this mob take their licorice bowling pretty seriously. Firstly, there's the traditional donning of the hat and apron, and the time-honoured crucial selection of the licorice ball.
Well, they're pretty good weight. Not too light.
Well done, well done.
And after that, it all gets a bit confusing. There are points for knocking down pins, and then more points for catching them. Competition's fierce, and tactics are pretty underhand. Or should that be overhand? But there's no cause for bad sportsmanship. After all, how hard can it be?
That's beautiful.
I've been out!
Of course, no world-class competition is complete without a bit of drama.
Ladies and gentlemen, here at the World Championships, we have a neck-and-neck tie. Ladies and gentlemen, it's sudden death, one throw each.
That bowl hasn't put a smile on the face of the champion. We might be in for an upset here. So we have a new champion tonight, and that could mean only one thing: party time.
Oh, well, the only way to travel when I'm feeling low, I like to get on a train, it's good for the soul. I'm a wandering spirit, I have a one-track mind. I'm getting out of this city and I'm going down the line. I caught the Indian Pacific back from WA, left it crying at the station as we pulled away. I didn't want to get the red eye, I have a fear of flying. And we were going hell for leather, rock and rolling down the line.
As Keith and his friend regaled me with their stories of the heyday of the railway here, there was a real sense of how important a place like Junee must have been, and how much it's changed. Something tells me, though, that with people like these, Junee's in pretty good hands, and is going to have no problem finding ways to meet the future.
Where's the track gonna take me as she pulls away? Could be gonna find my baby, could be running away. And now I've got my ticket, things are gonna work out fine. I'm getting out of this city and I'm going down the line. Down the
Oh, and there's one other thing. Last night, Keith remembered an old mate of his that worked with him here at Junee many years ago. Said he collected everything. A man after my own heart. They couldn't remember what happened to him in the end. Thought he might have spent his final years here as a station porter, before moving on to somewhere quiet.